Feeling like a failure does not equal being a failure. That's like saying missing one lift means that you're weak forever. It's just a data point. You're in the gym, you're growing, you're in the right place, doing the right thing. Remember, failure was part of the objective of entering the gym this morning. Same with your business. Hey you, I'm Mark, husband of one, father of three, maker of puns, climber of trees, grower of businesses, pitcher of tents, occasional cutter of cheese, word nerd, and lover of families. Oh no. Oh no, not yet. No. Oh, here he comes. Where's my oar? Showed that crack on who's boss. At least until like 2 p.m. this afternoon. I think I'll be due for another attack by then. Let's jump into it. Hey, welcome to all of you bandits and chilies. This episode is called Until Failure. We're going to draw a straight line between your world of running a family business and another world all about discipline, growth, and gains, the gym. And no, this isn't going to be a wake up at 4 a.m. and grind kind of rant. If I'm awake at 4 a.m. these days, it's to walk laps of our kitchen with our youngest. She's 15 months old and she really seems to hate sleep, or more specifically, sleeping whilst not being held and walked. Anyway, gets my steps in. But what this clash of worlds is specifically going to be about is a structural parallel between how muscles grow and how your business and your leadership grow. Specifically, the idea of training to failure. Not avoiding it, not fearing it, not pretending you're above it, but embracing failure as the exact mechanism that triggers growth. The same principle that builds muscles builds momentum in your business. So I want to talk about why failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the path to it, how to build reps into your systems so failure becomes part of the process, the difference between training to failure and running your business into the ground, and how to emotionally metabolize failure so it doesn't feel like the end, but instead the beginning. Let's get into it. Let's start with the gym analogy. When you lift weights, especially for muscle growth, the goal isn't just to get through the motions. You're not there to do something easy. You're there to apply specific intentional stress to the muscle. And the best results come when you go to failure. To clarify, training to failure doesn't mean that you collapse on the floor and can't walk out of the gym. It means that you do reps until your muscle literally cannot complete another rep with good form. So whilst it could mean literally not being able to push the bar up for your last bench press, it could also simply mean that you were not able to properly control your last rep. Failure of good form. You hit that wall and then your body starts adapting. That's the trigger. Without failure, your body goes, cool, we handled that just fine, no need to change. In business, most people do the equivalent of lifting weights well within their comfort zone. They stay in the realm of what they know they can do. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not growth. That's maintenance. People are often unintentionally optimizing for comfort and not for growth. So even though they're out there working really hard day after day, they, perhaps out of fear, are never pushing anything beyond the parameters of what they've always done. And if you always do what you've always done, then you'll always get what you've always got. Let's say that you're a solo cleaner who's good at what you do. You get clients through referrals, you're booked out. You're making decent money, but you also feel stuck. You want to hire, but every time you think about it, doubt creeps in. What if they mess up the quality? What if I can't afford to pay someone and still make a profit? What if a client complains and then it all falls apart? So, what do? You keep lifting the same weight over and over and over. Never to failure, just staying in your lane, and your business muscle never grows. If you want real gains, whether it's biceps or business, you have to push into that point of failure. That point where your body or your systems or your mindset goes, I can't do this like this anymore. That's when growth kicks in, because now your system has a reason to adapt. It's under pressure. It has to change. Pressure doesn't create weak points. It just exposes them. When you strive to level up in your business, perhaps you're taking on more work than you ever have before, and so now you're completing as many jobs in a week as you were previously completing in a month. In that scenario, that means that if you had one really bad issue or complaint every 6 months, well, now you're going to have that every 6 weeks. And worse than that, because the whole system is under new levels of pressure, additional things will be missed. Things will slip through the cracks administratively. Processes won't be followed. Equipment will break. Employees will get stressed and may quit. Why? Because you've taken a system that was doing okay at one particular level, and then you've just 4x'd the load. How would your pecs feel about a sudden 4x of weight? So as you transition into that growth, those little breakdowns of process, those failures, they illuminate the path forward. You hire someone and screw up your onboarding process. That failure reveals that if you want to lift that next heavy weight, you need to fix your onboarding process. You land a massive contract only to find out that you made a massive mistake and massively underquoted it. That failure will teach you a lot of what is involved in a job like that. You either win or you learn. You get a blessing or a lesson. Training to failure means that you go to the gym with the explicit objective to lift weights that are hard for you to lift until you fail, until you can't lift them anymore. What if you approached your business's growth that way? What if you took on a new project, whether it was a training program for employees or a marketing lever to get leads, and you just grabbed that thing off the weights rack and committed to lifting it until you found the thing that failed? There it is. The traffic is making it to the landing page, but the offer isn't converting them into leads. How can I fix the landing page? Then pick up the weights, lift them again until you find the next point of failure. The team are learning how to do this on day one, but they don't retain that information for week 2. So how can I make this information more memorable? Lift the weights again, put in the next set of reps until you find the next point of failure. That's training to failure. And it's the best kind of failure because it's calculated, it's intentional, it's progressive. Let's talk about compound lifts, squats, deadlifts, bench presses. These are your big movements. They hit multiple muscle groups. They're demanding, they're intimidating, but they're where all of the magic happens. In business, you could hit individual muscles with focused pressure points. Maybe you make a software switch and it puts some strain on your admin team. You change the pricing structure and it takes a bit of time for the sales team to get used to it. But compound lifts are things like hiring your first employee, delegating leadership, adding or removing services. These moves take effort. They burn more energy. They require good form. You can't just rush them or wing it, but the return on them can be game-changing. Let's take the example of hiring. Hiring someone is like a deadlift. It engages your whole business, your finances, your systems, your culture, your training processes. And if your form is sloppy, it will hurt you. You might cop an injury from poor form on that one. But if you approach it right, if you learn the mechanics and practice with reps, you start building something strong. You offload work, you create time, you create your ability to scale. The temptation, though, is to keep doing isolation curls, little admin tweaks, reposting your one ad, that extra time, changing your logo, things that feel like work, but they don't generate the kind of strength that moves the needle. Just like you can spend an hour at the gym doing bicep curls and still not stimulate real growth, you can spend hours tweaking your website and still be no closer to building a business that actually runs without you. So the challenge is this. What are your compound lifts right now? What's the one uncomfortable high leverage thing that, if you just put some reps into it, would change everything? If you don't know, that's okay. It can be hard to see the painting when your nose is pushed against it. Book a free clarity call with me, link in the description, let's chat about it. Now, how can you work on form? Because you don't want to lift heavy weights with poor form. You don't want to make 3 key hires without a solid process. You might break something. Well, to improve form, you do the reps with little to no weight, and you focus purely on controlling the motion. You can record yourself, review it, get a coach to watch you and provide feedback. Then once you've figured out that form, you can progressively add weight and work to fail. Up until what weight? How many reps? Can you keep that good form? So let's stick with hiring for a moment. How can you train without weight? Well, draft out your onboarding process, draft out your policies, your training schedule, your job role and expectations, work out the position description and how you would advertise for that job. Go through the entire process front to back and examine your form. Does it look right? Compare it with examples of good form from others. Get someone to review it for you. Look for the points of failure when there is no weight. Incidentally, check out the Hiring Game Changers Challenge in our school group, link in the description. It has everything that you need to build a full hiring system that allows you to always be hiring so that you don't miss the best candidates. gets you high applicant volume and automatically filters that high applicant volume down to a manageable number so that you can choose from the cream of the crop. Once you've reviewed the process with no weight, you can then add weight and seek to find the points of failure. Now that your ad's are live, not getting applicants, fail. Good news, you now know that this process doesn't get enough applicants. Review, tweak, try again. Applicants have unmet expectations, fail. Good news, you now know what to add into your ad, your interview, your onboarding process so as to better manage their expectations. New employees not getting the hang of their job fast enough, fail. Good news, you now know another way to not train them. Keep going, keep failing. The lessons that you are being taught are super valuable if you apply them and iterate. Quick dad joke break. This guy was going to the gym, working out, kicking goals. One day, one of the dumbbells congratulated him on his progress. At first, he nearly dropped it. Talking dumbbell, he was dumbfounded. But then he got into conversation with the dumbbell, and it turned out that the dumbbell had all of these unrealized hopes and dreams. The guy was talking to him, and he asked him why he'd never acted on trying to better himself, on taking action and making something more of himself. Well, the dumbbell said that he eventually had just decided that he would just see, kind of just sit and wait. Okay, that was pretty terrible. Just to be clear, not all failure is created equal. Some failure comes from ego, rushing ahead, ignoring feedback, assuming you already know everything, biting off more than you're willing to chew. This is the kind of failure that comes from pride or recklessness. It's like loading the bar with more than you can lift just because you want to look strong, and then you pull a muscle and you end up being injured for a month. But other failure comes from growth, from honest effort, thoughtful reps, experimentation, learning in public. This is the kind of failure you plan for, expect, and even welcome because it gives you feedback that you can't get from theory alone. Let's continue with the example of hiring. Let's say that you want to expand your team, but instead of taking time to build out a simple training framework, you hire the first warm body who replies to your job ad and you throw them straight into the field. When it inevitably blows up and the clients are furious, that's ego-driven failure. You didn't respect the weight of what you were lifting. Now compare that to someone who does prepare. They have an onboarding checklist, they shadow the new hire, they still miss something. There's a safety issue or a product knowledge gap, and the cleaner messes up a job. Yes, it is still a failure, but it's a growth failure. You followed the right intention. The damage is manageable and the learning sticks. In neither case could you totally avoid failure, but there is a huge difference in attitude and outcome. Ego-driven failure makes you want to hide, blame others, pretend it didn't happen, because it's all about protecting an image. Growth-driven failure makes you want to reflect, fix the system, and try again smarter, because it's all about trying to learn, grow, develop, and align. Here's a question to ask yourself. Where in your business are you failing from ego, and where are you failing from growth? Once you start to notice the difference, you can begin failing in a way that actually builds. Now, we're going to pick up our pink fluffy dumbbells for this one, emotional recovery. Now, just stay with me. In weight training, this is something that a lot of people don't understand until they've pushed themselves consistently. Your nervous system gives out before your muscles do. You might physically be capable of doing one more rep, but if your central nervous system is fried, if your body is overloaded by stress, then your brain pulls the brakes. Fatigue isn't always physical, sometimes it's neurological. The same goes for business. As a home service business owner, your central nervous system is your emotional bandwidth, your ability to handle pressure, decision-making, conflict, uncertainty. It's not your body giving out, it's mental, emotional, even spiritual fatigue, saying, too much, too much. And the problem isn't that we feel this way, it's that we don't recognize what's happening. We think, I'm just not cut out for this. I shouldn't be this tired. Maybe I'm broken. But what you're feeling is normal, predictable, trainable. Just like with lifting, if you overdo it without recovery, you burn out. But if you strategically hit failure, rest, reflect, and go again, your capacity grows. So what does recovery look like in business? First, it's naming the failure clearly. This happened. Here's why I think it happened. Here's what I'm feeling about it. Second, it's processing the emotion without attaching your identity to it. Feeling like a failure does not equal being a failure. That's like saying missing one lift means that you're weak forever. It's just a data point. You're in the gym, you're growing, you're in the right place, doing the right thing. Remember, failure was part of the objective of entering the gym this morning. Same with your business. Third, it's intentionally lowering the load for a short period. That might mean taking a half day, saying no to something that would have been a yes last week. Sometimes going slow is going fast. Fourth, and this one's important, talk to someone who gets it. The worst part of failure is isolation. We tend to think that no one screws up like we do. That's a lie. Everyone fails. The strong ones talk about it. Why? Because they've grown from it and they don't treat failure like something to be ashamed of. They treat it like working until failure at the gym. If you find that a hard internal dialogue to accept, then get around other people who are adopting it. Move in circles with that kind of mindset. Join the free family-oriented business growers group, link in the description. Here's a mindset shift that really helped me. Failure is feedback, not a verdict. Think about it. In the gym, when you hit failure on a lift, it's not a moral statement. Nobody walks up and says, wow, you failed your last set. You must be a garbage human. No, they say, nice, you pushed yourself really hard. You're growing. In business, though, we get this warped lens where failure gets tied to who we are, not just what we did or what we tried to do. Didn't close that deal? I'm not a good salesperson. Messed up that quote? I'm terrible with money. Lost a team member? I'm not meant to lead. We take the data point and we write a whole story around it, a permanent one at that. But what if instead we viewed failure the way an elite athlete or coach would? What if we asked, what specifically broke down? Was it a system, a skill gap, a mismatch of communication? What needs to change before the next rep? Now, let's look at what happens when you take everything we've been talking about so far and build it into your team. Because here's the truth. If you treat failure as a teacher, but your team treats it like a death sentence, then you'll always be misaligned. They'll hide mistakes, they'll resist feedback, they'll play it safe, and your business will stagnate. You need a culture that makes failure feel safe, expected, and useful. In our business, we have a decision-making license. It's blue tacked onto the dash of each work vehicle, and it basically tells our team that they can solve any problem that comes up in a way that aligns with our core values and feels right for the customer and the business. They can just go right ahead and do it, and they have a budget of $250. Now, this accomplishes a few things. Firstly, it allows them to use their brains to solve problems without involving other people. It just gets things done quicker. That's great. But the next thing is that it holds me accountable to them. I need to set the stage for this decision-making license with every new employee because they would rarely assume that it applied to them without a specific conversation, and they want to know what happens if it goes wrong. I mean, fair enough, right? All well and good to have permission to make a decision, but if you're worried about losing your job, you just won't take that risk, right? So I explain it to them and I let them know that if they make a decision in alignment with that license and things don't work out, maybe they spend the whole $250 and not only didn't they solve the problem, that they actually somehow made it worse, I will not hold that against them. We'll figure it out, we'll solve the problem somehow, and then afterwards, we'll have a chat and conduct a bit of a post-mortem to see what could have been done differently next time. But it is not at all a case of them being in trouble for having made the wrong decision. In fact, I will celebrate the fact that they made a decision. I'll celebrate that with them, I'll let the team know, and I'll use it as an example because they need to have that zone of grace to operate within in order to ever be able to make any decision. All right, let's bring this home. If there's one thing that I hope you walk away from this episode with, it's this. The weight is supposed to feel heavy. You're not doing it wrong if your business feels hard, if leadership stretches you, if building systems and dealing with people and making scary calls wears you out. That's not failure, that's training. We've bought into this fantasy version of entrepreneurship where success feels smooth and confident and calm all the time. But in reality, just like the gym, real growth hurts. It burns, it humbles you, and if you're doing it right, you should be walking out some weeks like you've just finished a personal record deadlift. Struggle is not a sign that you're weak, it's a sign that you're growing. Your nervous system may tell you to stop. Your fear will say, back off. Your old identity wants you to stay comfortable. But you're not building this business to stay the same. You're building it to become more resilient, more strategic, more free. And that only happens under pressure. So when the weight feels heavy, don't immediately try to drop it. Don't run from it. Don't make it mean something about your worth. Instead, breathe, set your feet, lock in your form, and push through the rep. There's a version of you on the other side of that rep who is stronger, clearer, more capable, but you don't get to meet them unless you're willing to go to failure. If I could sit across from you with a coffee or a protein shake and look you in the eye, I'd say this: don't avoid the hard rep. Embrace it, respect it, learn from it. It's like that favorite quote of mine: the cave that you most fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And when you fail, and you will, smile, because that means that you're not coasting anymore. You're training. You're not stuck, you're growing. And like I said at the top, the best growth happens until failure. Thanks for being here. Now go lift something heavy, physically or metaphorically. If you do want to chat and get some clarity about your next moves to grow your business, book your free clarity call, link in the description. That's it. Have an awesome day. Make someone else's day awesome. I love you just the appropriate amount, like take whatever is weird and then take a healthy step backwards from that line. That's exactly how much. If it's weird, you're the weirdo. Catch ya. Bye. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Are you sniffing what I'm stepping in? If you're looking for a really valuable community centered around building your business, being really intentional with your spouse and kids, and if you think you can tolerate my terrible dad jokes, then join Family-Oriented Business Growers. It's awesome. There's self-paced challenges designed to help you solve key pain points within your business in short, intentional sprints. There's awesome people in there doing awesome things who have experience with stuff that can help you, having stood where you stand. You'll benefit from what's in there, we'll benefit from having you in there, you legend you, and best of all, it's totally free and also free of toxic shenanigans because we don't tolerate none of that. The mission of the group is to help 250 family-oriented home service business owners reclaim 5 hours per week for what matters most whilst growing their business this year. So jump in there and get amongst it. Join via warplan.au, that's warplan.au. Oh no. He's early. Warplan.au. Catch you in there. Ah!